They had some that were like Asuka and Ray together, but nobody really wants that. That's disgusting. I know. Anyway, so I've been doing this panel for a long time, so just please forgive me if you have seen this before. I try to make it a little bit different every time because I don't actually know what's going to happen. It's me, Hello Kitty, blah, 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 blah. If you have questions or comments or whatever, you know, go ahead and throw that out there. Raise your hand, whatever. So, Hello Kitty has a very special place in my heart, and that's because when I was a little girl, when Hello Kitty was first introduced, it was actually my very favorite aunt that gave me my first Hello Kitty stuff. So, I don't have my original actual Hello Kitty, but I do have right here. You guys may be familiar with little twin stars, Kiki and Lala. So this is one of my vintage little twin stars things here. It's from 1976, which was when Sanrio first imported merchandise into the U.S. So there you go, actual vintage little twin stars. It's in colored pencils and notepad. It's 1976, I must have been, I don't know, an infant. Let's just say that. I played with this, I was an infant. We'll go with that, that'll be good. Anyway, what I want to tell you a little bit about, because I think it's interesting, being the Hello Kitty enthusiast that I am, like where it all came from. And that goes back to a gentleman by the name of Mr. Tsuji, Shintaro Tsuji. And he actually, just this past December, celebrated his 85th birthday. And he is still in charge of the company. Good old Mr. Tsuji going strong there. And he began, well, he was born in 1927 near Mount Fuji. And when he was about 13 years old, he became an orphan. So he was taken in by an aunt and uncle, and he, you know, tried to be a good, responsible young lad. When he was a teenager, of course, there was a little thing, World War II. He ended up having to go into service. He was still pretty young. He was a teenager at the time, and he didn't really see any combat. But what he found that he could do to make money entrepreneurially is selling black market or gray market goods to his fellow soldiers. So that's where his whole little entrepreneurial spirit was born. But, you know, the war ended. He was responsible. He wanted to, you know, be a good, upstanding citizen for his auntie and uncle. And he got a job in the government. And he had a good salaryman position working in the government. But he always thought about those old entrepreneurial days back in the Army. So, unbelievably, he quit. Hello.
Yeah, we still get
We're still looking forward to found all these Cadbury eggs.
We have Cadbury eggs. Okay. I guess everyone can just have a Cadbury egg. So there you go. Nothing to do with Hello Kitty, but it's stuff. So there you go. Have an egg. Hello Kitty does not lay eggs. Christian will graciously pass around Cadbury cream eggs for those of you who would like to enjoy one. Anyway, where am I? Okay, right. So, believe it or not, this is not typical. If you understand anything about Japanese culture, you know, they don't do that kind of stuff. They have a good government salaryman job. They don't just quit that and go start their own companies. But guess what? That's what he did. I know, it's crazy. So he did. He starts his own company, the Yamanashi Silk Center. Okay, why is the Yamanashi Silk Center? Because Yamanashi is that prefecture of Japan that he's from near Mount Fuji. And it's, as you might guess, dealing with textiles and that kind of thing. Silk is one of the main industries of that area. It's an inland province, so being inland, obviously they don't deal in like anything to do with seafood or looking for pearls or that kind of stuff. Anyway, so he starts up his company, he's selling textiles and stuff like that, but he's really a big fan of a lot of Western companies, and particularly merchandise. You know what, I think I might use this microphone because that door is open and it's really loud. And I feel a little bit like I'm yelling at you. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, right. So Mr. Tsuji is quite a fan of a lot of Western companies, and through the 60s, he kind of starts doing some partnerships with some of these folks. One of them, which I always think is really funny to think about, thank you, Christian. Lovely Christian, everyone. Anyway, he does this deal with Mattel to sell Barbies in Japan. Now, I just imagine all of these little Japanese girls opening up these presents, and it's this blonde doll with big hooters, and I don't know. Maybe that's not the kind of Barbies that they had, but in my mind, that's what I imagine it to be like, and they're going, "Nani?" So, yeah. Anyway, Barbie really tanked in Japan. It was not popular, at that time anyway. Barbie was, yeah, a kind of a no-go. But he tried a few different deals, merchandising, distributing some American goods in Japan. One that he did, though, was nothing to do with America. I love this story. He was selling sandals, and he somehow got the idea, if he did just a little embellishment on them, he put like a little pair of cherries on the sandals, which meant he could suddenly charge, this was a very small cost to him to put that embellishment on there, but then he could charge a lot more for these sandals, and they sold like crazy. So I think that was really how he got, turned on this idea of merchandising, even though it's a fruit and not a character. But although with some characters, you never know, right? Anyway, he did a partnership that has lasted all of these years. I don't know exactly when that started, but I think sometime in the 60s, but with Peanuts. Charles Schulz, one of his heroes, who he got to meet and form a partnership with. And if some of you may have gone in a Sanrio store at some point and you saw Peanuts character goods there, that's the reason why. Because he struck up this partnership with Charles Schulz way back when, and it was incredibly successful. So Peanuts has been really a great success for not just Peanuts Syndicate and Charles Schulz, but also for Sanrio, as a matter of fact. Although I think it's fascinating if you go to Japan to see that perception of Peanuts, because we've had so many TV specials here, right? And the books, the cartoon strip still runs in newspapers every day, even though Charles Schulz has been dead for over 15 years. So a lot of us think about, yes, may he rest in peace. We think about, Charlie Brown and Lucy, and she pulls a football away, and she sets up her little psychiatric stand for 5 cents, and, he likes the little red-haired girl, and the little crabby Christmas tree. So we have all of this kind of mythology of Charlie Brown and Peanuts, and really, in Japan, it's about the dog. That's pretty much it. It's just Snoopy. It's Snoopy. Maybe with a tiny dash of Woodstock. I mean, they may be vaguely aware that there are some, ugly bald children or something like that, or children who don't wash themselves, But they're kind of, like, Peanuts is really, it's Snoopy. It's all about Snoopy. So Snoopy has been incredibly successful for Sanrio. There were some other kind of partnerships that he tried. Hallmark. This was something he was fascinated with, greeting cards. When they originally tried that deal, it was enormously unsuccessful in Japan. They're not really much into greeting cards. I mean, I think I read a statistic a year or two ago that currently Americans buy something like 7 times more greeting cards than Japanese. But it has caught on. But if you ever see Japanese greeting cards, they're super elaborate. You open it up and things pop out and things are spinning around, and it's, it's all like 3-dimensional and it's doing things. Of course, they're crazy expensive, but they don't have like the 99-cent bargain section, right? Anyway, so it's kind of come back around, because I noticed a few years ago when I was in Japan that all these Sanrio shops did have a section of greeting cards, but they were the, super fancy greeting cards. But anyway, so, some of the stuff was successful, some of it not. Snoopy was great. But eventually, Yamanashi Silk Center, Mr. Tsuji comes around to the idea that if he's going to really be successful, what he needs to do is have his own characters. Because, yeah, even though Snoopy is super popular, every time he puts out a pencil bag or a notepad that's got Snoopy on it, well, he has to pay a royalty to the Peanut Syndicate, because that's what you have to do. You can't just go and make up your own line of t-shirts or lunchboxes or hats with a licensed character on there and sell them. You could be sued because that's illegal. It's not your intellectual property. You do not have the right to do that. You can actually make one-off things that are individually produced, but you can't mass produce and sell something with someone else's character on it. Anyway, he thinks,
what I'll do is, I'll go to the local art schools, I'll hire a bunch of, newly graduated art students, I'll have them come work for me and design characters, and then I, Shintaro Tsuji, will own the rights to all those characters. It's a pretty ingenious plan, and spoiler alert, it was very successful. Anyway, so along about that time, he decides Yamanashi Silk Center may not be the best name going forward for this new company. So he decides he's going to rebrand the company. Now, at that point, he already was international, at least as far as the U.S. Let's see, his first store in the U.S. actually was in 1969. He opened the Strawberry Shop in San Francisco. Sadly, it is no longer there. It was that location, I think, was there for about 30 years, but it is gone now. So you cannot visit the original Strawberry Shop. I know, it makes me sad too. Anyway, he decides the new international name for his company will be Sanrio. And here's a little interesting piece of trivia that I love about that name. It's a totally made-up word, and the idea behind it is that the three oldest civilizations in the world were all cultures that were set up around rivers, because of course people had to have a fresh water source. So the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Chinese. That was his inspiration. Being a student of history, he liked that concept of these three civilizations and these three rivers. So that's literally what the name Sanrio means. Ich ni san, three, and then Rio, rivers, which is obviously not a Japanese word. But anyway, so there you go. Sanrio is literally from three rivers. That was the inspiration for the idea. So 1973, changed the name of the company. So, it's 2013, so this would actually be the 40th anniversary of the name change, although a few years ago, they did put out a lot of 50th anniversary merchandise, and what that 50th anniversary was actually from 1960. And 1960 was when he founded the original Yamanashi Silk Center. So there's a little technicality there of the 50th anniversary of Sanrio, because it wasn't really Sanrio in 1960. But anyway, I bought the merchandise.